I'm Michelle Fritsch. I'm a clinical pharmacist, and I focus on people who are around the time of retirement to look at all of these different aspects of their health, because often at that time of life, we're so focused on finishing up our primary occupation and focused on finances, and we miss all of the opportunities to take great steps to preserve health and function and really be fulfilled throughout that transition and beyond. And then my partner is Ellen Platt. Ellen is an aging LifeCare manager. And so she is the group that you call when something happens that's unexpected, you're not sure how to navigate it. They are navigation specialists within the healthcare system. And we know that that healthcare system is more complicated these days for many, many reasons. And so having a navigator like her team can make such a big difference. And our COVID blessing has been to work together during the pandemic and create Propel Comprehensive Wellness. Hold on 1 second, please.
Let me know when you're ready, because we need to connect your computer and do all of that, and that might take a few.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you. So we've been privileged to do that together. We're very excited about it. And this is a component, is this social wellness, right along with the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual wellness. So we keep using that word. I'd love to hear, what does it mean to be well? Is anyone willing to turn on their audio or put in the chat how they would answer this question?
So I have unmuted everybody here, and you're free to chime in with your thoughts if you'd like. Look forward to hearing from you. So we have somebody that says peace of mind.
Oh, that's a great one. That is a great one, and it addresses wellness in all of those different capacities beyond just the physical.
I'm sorry, somebody says breathe easily regardless of what comes at me.
Oh, and that is huge. And that takes some preparation. Most people can't do that just naturally without some planning and some tips and tools that they can incorporate. And I've got what I think will be a really meaningful tool for us here in a few minutes.
And somebody says simply good health.
Yeah. And that does get to all of those components. And here we go. Here are the components. At being a healthcare provider for over 30 years now, I've seen numerous examples of someone who took great care of themselves, they exercised, they ate a great diet, they looked fit and trim, but they were not healthy because they were missing one of these other important components. So it really does take all of this, taking care of our whole selves, to reach those descriptions of well that you were giving. So we've talked a little bit about this, social wellness, why it's important. That's why we're gathered today. So a piece of it is it's so many components. And sort of where we want to end up is that little bit in the middle where it all overlaps. So there's the impact of our family, and that includes our genetics of our family, but also who's the tribe, who are the people, who are the people that raised us, that came along us, who have supported us, who are our sort of adopted family through the various phases of life. I know for my family, we've moved a fair bit, and there are people that we would call family in every city where we've lived, even if they weren't blood relatives. And then there's your neighbors, those people that are in your community. You are together for sort of geographic reasons, but those are important people in your life. Then there are the professional network of people, and that's especially prior to retirement. All of those people in your workplace, the people in your networking groups, the partners, the buyers, the whatever, depending on your position, all of those people that are involved in your social network. And then your friends. And do you know that song? keep new friends or get new friends and keep the old. Some are silver, some are gold. So your friends circle, some of those may go clear back to childhood and some may be newer in your life, but that entire friend network is so important. And then there are other things like people that you meet and get together with regularly due to hobbies, sports that you play or sports that you watch, clubs that you're a part of, shared interests, affinity groups, your faith-based communities. So our social network is a lot of people, but it changes. One, it changes when we retire because that professional network, it now takes some work to stay connected with those people. And the reality is you probably won't stay connected with everyone. And then if you move, so a lot of people at some point decide to downsize or in some way move into a different community, then that changes the neighbors and it somewhat changes the friends, at least the friends that are close enough to like go grab dinner. So as you transition in this life, keep an eye on this social network and make sure that you stay connected to a large number of people, because that diversity, that sort of the number of people that we connect with helps us along the way, especially when we reach times when we need more support. You've got a bigger pool to draw from. And at any point you've got comments, please share them or stop me. So we just talked about relationships shift, that's hard to say, in retirement and other big life transitions. And transitions are mostly good, you know, especially if we've planned them. They can be peaceful. And if we have good, honest communication, people know that we're transitioning, why and how we're transitioning, how we anticipate our relationship to continue or change. As long as you're really upfront about those things, it helps tremendously. And then building new relationships. So if you do end up moving or you end up joining new hobbies and meeting new groups of people, communication is such an important part. As I think about people that I've interacted with through the years who've had a rocky transition, a lot of that came from not communicating or making a lot of assumptions about relationships and what they would look like moving forward. So communication has been critical for the people that I see that really succeed with this transition and do well. I would imagine a number of you have either maybe already retired or moved at some point in your life and you've experienced some of this and you've probably seen it not go well. And then on the other hand, you've seen it go very well. So just something that I want to plant a seed for you to think about. So here's a tool for us to think about. Reflective statements, I'm not sure if you've heard about those before, but one of the things that can make communication especially effective, and when we think about social wellness, we're thinking about relationships, so communication is a core part of that. Reflective statements are when someone says something to you, sometimes we feel pressure to be thinking about our response. And so we're not really listening to what they're saying. That shows up in a number of ways. And so there's a game that I used to play with health profession students. We would mix up the communication. You want to make sure that what your words are saying and what your tone is reflecting and what your face is saying and what your body is saying are the same thing. So if you come at somebody like, I really care about you, and you look angry and torn up, it doesn't matter what you're saying. That message is not going to come across as a caring kind of message. At the same time, I've lived in the South long enough to know that sometimes people will be like, I hate your guts, bless your heart. Well, this looks really inviting and the tone is really inviting, but the message is not inviting at all. Can anybody relate to this? Have you seen people communicate where it's a very mixed message? The face, the body, the tone, and the words are saying different things. So while you're thinking about that, one of the ways to help with that is to use reflective statements. Kind of observe all of those physical pieces, listen for the tone, listen for the words, but then reflect back. So, like with that last one, I think I hear you say that you're upset with me. Can we talk more about that? Like, why are you upset with me? Even though they were sweet when they said it and they used a sweet tone, the words were I hate your guts. And so, reflecting back, let's dive deeper into this conversation. Or if somebody says I'm really confused about something, reflecting back, okay, so if I understand correctly, this part was confusing, kind of where did we lose track, and then how can I help you overcome where the confusion was and make it clearer. So the more you can kind of reflect back before you actually respond with an answer, it helps you make sure that you're answering the right question or you're responding to the right message. Does that make sense to everybody?
We're getting a lot of comments saying that they see this quite often.
Yeah, especially if
One person say they see it in their work environment.
Yeah, I would imagine. So reflective statements, it was kind of funny. I remember doing this with a group of students once, and one of the young men came up afterwards and he said, you know, if nothing else, this is going to make me a really great husband. Like, oh, he gets it. Communication and key relationships. All right, the other piece that's key, especially in life transitions, sometimes the relationships that have used up your day when you're at work, the people that need your time and attention all day long, are not the people that need your time and attention when you're no longer in that workplace, but rather it's spouses and family members and children and grandchildren. And sometimes when you've got more time to spend with those people, it's not such a surface conversation, you might realize that there are some old wounds that haven't been dealt with. And I encourage you during those times of transition, when you realize that, it's a great time to just have open, honest conversations. I'm going to use an example of a woman in her 20s that doesn't want to spend time with her grandparents. Her grandparents have no idea why she doesn't want to spend time with them. But she remembers as a child, she had some difficulties with certain kinds of tasks, and she felt like they made fun of her. And she has carried that around now for 15 years or whatever, but never told them how much that upset her. And they are completely oblivious that what they did upset her. So just trying to have them sit down fairly recently and talk through that. So don't be surprised and don't beat yourself up if you find that there are some relationships that aren't as tight as you thought, now that you can really spend more time on those relationships. And some more specifics. If you've not yet retired, this has preserved more relationships that working through this tool than just about any other. It's that once you've decided you're going to retire, how are you going to tell people? Who needs to hear it first? And who needs to hear it from you rather than hearing it through an email or hearing it through the grapevine? So many people have gotten hurt feelings because they felt like the relationship was tight and they should have gotten a personal notification and they didn't. Before the retiring person had a chance to tell them, they heard it from someone else. So when people really stop and plan this part, they're much less likely to have those faux pas and end up upsetting people. So think about the relationships that will continue after work. Think about your most key relationships once you retire. Often that goes back to family and friends. And who do you need to tell early, but tell them to keep it on the down low and not share it just yet, and make sure they know that they're not to tell anybody until you've had a chance to tell these other people. If you plan it out and make it clear to everybody that this is the order at which you're telling people, and you don't want anyone making a public announcement until you reach a certain point, it really helps assure that you can announce your retirement in the way that you want to, in a way that honors all of those relationships in your life. It's such a simple thing, but oh my goodness, when it's not done right, so many people get their feelings hurt. Now, when you retire, I'm seeing way too many people fall into this statistic of spending over 7 hours a day in front of the television. There is nothing social about that, and there's nothing healthy about that. But when you get there and you don't have a good idea for what you're going to do with yourself, or you're feeling that you can go through all the stages of grief with any life transition, and that includes retirement. If you don't have a plan, then you can be kind of sucked into the couch watching TV all day, every day. And again, I see this happen to so many people. And when it happens, health tends to decline pretty rapidly. Whether it's health as far as you get new diagnoses, your weight goes up, you get diabetes and high blood pressure, or mentally you get depressed or anxious. And so I don't want that for anybody. So planning, how am I going to stay socially active? What am I going to do? Who am I going to be with? Who am I going to be around? Is so important. Do we have any more questions or comments at this point, Jeff?
Not at this time. I guess I have one comment related to what you just said. I hope it's relevant. So how does the TV consumption and how that relates to social wellness kind of relate to social media and tablets and devices and phones for more the younger generation?
Oh, good point.
Can you kind of bridge that gap a little bit and maybe talk a little bit about that for a second?
Absolutely. And it's such a great point. We could have an entire session on this, that especially, well, watching the news, or however you get your news, you get the news on the phone, however you consume news right now is such a source of anxiety for so many people. And then social media, one, it sucks people in. They can sit there for such long periods of time and not even realize it. So they're substituting real social wellness for this sort of fake online social wellness. And there's more and more data coming out that, one, social media actively manipulates us, actively, like they've got algorithms, but also that people get into that comparison mode because people don't put their ugliest side typically on social media. They put their bright, shiny moments when they did their makeup just right, and when their hair looks great, and when they got to see this friend that they only get to see once every 3 years, and when they went on a big trip. And you can absorb that into your thinking that, oh my goodness, that person's doing great things all the time. They always look like that. They're always as happy and smiley as they are in that photo or that video. And we know that's not true. We all have our days that aren't so great, when we don't even bother with the makeup, the hair looks a mess, that we don't have any fun trips to take. But if you just look at social media, it paints a different picture that has been very mentally destructive for a lot of people. Is that kind of what you were thinking about?
It was, yeah, very, very much so. Yeah, and just as much, kind of the toll that's just the general toll that it takes, for young adults, and children as well these days that are kind of mired in, having the habit of being on, tied to their phones and tied to their tablets and this, which I see quite often, in all areas of life. So
I do too. And I think we're at the early stages truly of knowing just how destructive that is. It's going to take a while to fix it.
and especially last thing I'll say, don't want to hijack it, but you know, my wife's a teacher, and she works with, you know, middle schoolers and high schoolers, and that is I think she just sent me an article the other day that showed that that age is the second most active brain development period of life. Is that correct?
Right.
And
It
so
is.
if you're, you know, stuck just, you know, not being as active in all aspects of life, and you're just, you know, looking at social media and, you know, your tablet, and not just being as active as you can be, you know, you're kind of maybe stunting yourself a little bit.
Well, so again, we could do a whole session on this. When you think of those of us that are on here probably had very different childhoods. We were out, we were getting dirty, we were playing, there was a lot of physical, there was a lot of working through issues with friends, you know, on a regular basis. When we hit those key years, like you're talking about around middle school, our brain starts to, it has so many pathways when we're born. And at this point in life, it starts to think about which pathways are we using and which are we not. And it starts to trim and clip away the unused pathways so that more energy and focus can be spent on the used pathways. So if all the used pathways are doing this fake social life, we kind of have danger that some of the other pathways that would have been developed without all this social media might get clipped away because they haven't been used. So that's a super oversimplification, but it's sort of one of the things that science is trying to figure out of, oh my goodness, how do we avoid that happening? So a lot to think about there. So now everybody's thinking about their kids and grandkids. They're like, oh, as we should. So isolation is the number one thing we want to avoid when we think about social wellness. One of the biggest things that sucks that away is isolation. So that's just being cut off from other people, either actually physically being alone or feeling alone, feeling completely left out from what other people are doing. Remember, it's like one of the biggest penalties in prison systems is to put somebody in solitary confinement because it is so terribly hard on our mental and emotional and spiritual and physical health. So we want to do everything we can to avoid isolation. And a piece of that is building that big team of people that are in your life, that stay in your life, that you can call upon and do things with and be engaged with. Some of the risk factors for isolation are loss of a spouse or your closest relationship, moving to a new community, you don't know anybody yet, losing your ability to drive so you can no longer go meet for coffee or go meet for lunch or go do things. Now, Uber and Lyft and taxis are helping with that, but still, you lose a lot of autonomy with that ability to drive. No longer being able to walk easily, so you're not as likely to get out of the house and go places because it hurts or it's difficult for you to ambulate. And then getting to a point where you're afraid to be away from home. And oh my goodness, COVID has driven this in so many people where they're just afraid of exposure. So they're staying in for such long periods of time. And then there are things like maybe you're afraid that you're going to lose control of your bladder, or you're afraid of, I don't know, like I know somebody whose eyes are always running. He's just got something going on where his eyes are running, and he doesn't want to go out around people because they don't understand why he's always having water run down his face. So we can find so many ways to isolate ourselves, but that's one of the worst things we can do. And you'd be surprised how understanding people are. If you need to use your cane to successfully come meet for lunch, or if you show up in an Uber, or if you, I'm hoping that you've got that big group of people that when they recognize you're not showing up for things, they'll come get you and purposefully pull you back in to those activities. There are huge nutritional implications. When someone becomes more isolated, they tend, just think about if you've already experienced this, how you cooked and prepared meals when all the kids were home. And if you've reached a point like I have where you're an empty nester, you don't cook the same kinds of meals. There might not even be as much variety in the foods that you cook. But then when someone is alone, there tends to be a sharp decline in the varieties of foods, the health factor of foods, even eating food. A lot of people either start eating a lot of junk and gain a lot of weight, or they stop eating and they lose a lot of weight, and neither one is a good healthy thing. So it's one often on the medical side, one of our first indicators that something's wrong. If that weight changes significantly, we realize maybe there's been a loss of a spouse, or you're not able to walk as easily, then we can kind of dive into that from the medical side. The other thing is, literally just got off the phone with someone who's just lost her father, and her mom is going through exactly this. She's never been the one that had to pay the bills and manage the finances before. And so she's finding that difficult and extremely intimidating. I'm reaching for my charger. And feels very vulnerable. She's never really spent any time online. So in her case, a lot of things feel very foreign. And then there's this risk of scams. I don't know about you, but between email and phone calls, I have somebody trying to scam me pretty much every day. And then feeling the confidence to tell like a telemarketer, no, I don't need a new roach treatment or whatever. But sometimes when the other party in particular handled all of those things and now this person's trying to do it themselves, they're highly at risk of falling for scams or being sold things they don't need because they don't know how to say no, or just trying to avoid people and conversations in general because they're afraid of these things happening. So does this make sense? Do you kind of see where I'm coming from? So some strategies. One is identifying your purpose. And we talked about this. What was that, Jeff? Like a couple of months ago? When we go through a life transition, we can use our skills and our abilities and our passions and the things that bother us to dive in and use all of that in a new way. And sometimes that's mentoring, volunteering, getting involved in nonprofits or whatever kind of aligns with what's going to engage you. But that gets you out and it gets you interacting with other people, and it gives you that fulfillment of I'm making a difference, I am helping with this issue. And then there's a growing number of things just to kind of, you want to keep your brain active. So taking various kind of classes, going to the gym, affinity groups, like if you've not heard of Meetup, it's meetup.com. And if you like butterflies, you can find a Meetup group that likes butterflies. And they get together and they go to butterfly gardens or they talk about that, just like any topic you can think of. Travel groups. There are places you've always wanted to go, but you don't want to go by yourself. There are a number of travel groups out there. And then it's amazing that we get more when we give to others. And so that is such an important piece as well of social wellness. So I want us to do something special that maybe you've not done before, but is so helpful in our day-to-day, because we're all being hit with change and the current financial situation and the pandemic, and it's just stuff. It's always stuff. So if you do this, it can have such an impact on how you start your day, how you end your day, and how you get through stresses that occur during your day. So I encourage you, uncross your legs if they're crossed. Take a really deep breath and blow it out slowly. And I want you to continue to just breathe deeply. And I'm going to read some statements that I want you to really kind of suck into your inner core. And then I will send these, Jeff, for you to send out that people can then do for themselves at other times. All right, so deep breath, slowly out. I am enough. I am getting better and better every day. My life is filled with abundance of goodness. I am confident. I can handle anything that comes my way. I am powerful. I am making today count. I am strong. All I need is within me right now. I wake up motivated. I am an unstoppable force of nature. We have found that if you replace all the negative things we can say to ourselves in our brain, if you replace all of that with these words of affirmation, it can change your thought process. It can help you manage really stressful times. And in particular, when someone is talking themselves out of going to a social engagement, whew, you can really pull yourself back up and say, no, I'm going. This is good for me. I need to go do this. And just overcome all that negative talk with some really self-fulfilling positive talk. And then go do that thing that is going to get you socially engaged. I want to wrap up by just telling you a little bit again about what Ellen and I do and make ourselves available to you. We see too many people with a successful career that within a couple of years of retirement either have a rapid health decline, the divorce rate is high and climbing, and the one that absolutely is so hard for me to grasp is the rise in the suicide rate. And that's where people just lose their sense of self and who they are and their importance and what they have to offer society after retirement. But with a solid plan for health and purpose, we avoid all that, and it is preventable. So with some planning, we prevent that. So that is what Ellen and I do together. That is Propel. Propel is powerful retirement options for a purpose-filled, engaged life. And it's a subscription model. So each month you get a few short pointed videos and a workbook where on your own time, you can just work through all of these things that we talk about in this Elville series. We have 3 years of content. So ideally you do it 3 years before you retire. But if you're past that, it's still going to be really powerful for you. We're going to pull your health information together. We're going to identify your health risks, which a lot of people don't even know what those are. Teach you how to interact with your doctor better, to handle those things, work on purpose. So many things that we feel are important that we make available to you. So I thank you for bearing with me being late. And I ask your forgiveness that I need to run away a little bit early. But I want to offer to you, if you look in the bottom left, if you go to propelyourwellness.com/propelsp, we would love to offer you a trial of this for $10. And so when you go to this site and you click on this, then put in the code Elville and you'll pay only $10. And again, we want you to just see what it is for yourself. And we believe it would be incredibly helpful to allow us to share our expertise with you month by month and have these really solid plans to avoid that health decline. So Jeff, I'm so grateful you invited me back. And again, I apologize that I messed up the time today, but I hope this was helpful.
Oh, Michelle, please, no apologies. We appreciate you being here. And this webinar series, the wellness series we offer, is so valuable to so many people. We have so many positive comments, and already looking forward to the next one, which is actually Tuesday, August 16th. I think this is going to be a really interesting one, making the most of your medical appointments. So I think that's going to be a great topic. I think it's one reason that a lot of people don't make their medical appointments in the first place, is because they don't know what to really think, or how to address them, or prepare for them. So I think this is going to be a really important discussion that we're going to have next month, and looking forward to it. So
Most
thank
people
you as
don't
always.
prepare. And so you're going to feel very differently about every doctor visit after next month. We've got some fun things planned that you can apply right away.
So if you need to jump off, Michelle, that's fine. I'm going to have a few closing comments. We do have Joe Sperling from Joe Sperling Insurance. He always has some great comments here that I'll end with. He said, Betty White once said, "It's your outlook on life that counts. If you take yourself lightly and don't take yourself too seriously, pretty soon you can find the humor in everyday life, and sometimes it can be a lifesaver." So now we all know that Betty White led a wonderful and meaningful and purposeful and long life, and hope we can find some meaning in that quote there. So rounding everything out here today, I will send out the video for today and the slides if you didn't get them for some reason. Also send those statements out that Michelle just read to all of us here just a few minutes ago. As far as our webinar series, we're going to be jumping back into things here after a little break that we had. Tomorrow we have a very popular topic, Medicaid long-term care asset protection planning. That is with our elder attorney, Lindsay Moss. Have a big audience for that one. Always very popular. On Friday, trustee selection and how to choose the right one for you. Also with Stephen Elville, our managing principal here at the firm, who many of you know. And that is also one of our most popular webinars, and we're looking forward to that. And again, on Tuesday, the 16th of August, making the most of your medical appointments with Michelle, and Ellen will be back for that one, Ellen Platt of the Option Group. So they'll both be offering that together. So thank you for being part of the wellness series today, and thanks for hanging in there with us as Michelle got on board with us a little bit late today, but hope it was certainly worth your while and time, and you got something great out of it today, as I did and always do. So we'll see you again as part of the Elville webinar series, and thanks for your time today, and we'll see you again soon. Have a great day.